Is change a crime? Is change a crime? Is change a crime? Is change a crime? Is it a crime to change? Is it a crime to change?
Hi, welcome back to another episode of Talk Back for Teens. I'm your host, Zoë Sullivan, and this is my co-host,
Jeff Crane, West Irondequoit Schools.
Welcome back to the second segment with all the lovely people here in this district that have been very active in their community, attending the Summit and Gateway to Change, and here we're talking about that. So, Sierra Lynn, could you tell me how activism makes you feel?
Activism definitely makes me feel excited just for the future, because I know that if I'm here talking about it and I have people around me talking about it, it's only going to get bigger. If people keep talking about it, everyone's just going to be more aware of these issues that need to become more comfortable to talk about. So just as it expands, it's definitely making me a lot more excited for the future, and also helping me grow as a person, just to be more aware of different stereotypes that people go through, and just an overall acceptance of others.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to say activism makes me feel really good, because you feel like you're educating people and helping people, and if you can teach one person about their behavior and they bring that into their daily life, it makes you feel better. But at the same time, it kind of makes me a little upset, because I have parents and grandparents who are doing the same kind of activism, and it seems like sometimes we're not where we want to be when it comes to change. So you're not sure if you want to feel hopeful or hopeless.
You've got to maintain your hopefulness, because your generation is less biased than any I've ever been. I've been in this business now 41 years, and your group, your generation, is the group that's going to be able to do this. And we've all been marginalized, haven't we, at some point or another? You want to talk a little bit about yours?
Everyone assumes, as they see me, I'm Chinese, or if they see Asian writing, they just assume that I could read it or understand it. And what you said, our generation is the future. We have the power to change the world and make everyone understand.
To go along with what he was saying, I don't think that our generation is the future. I think our generation is the present, because everything that we're doing is changing things now. Not for the future, but for what is happening now. Everything that's going on is very important. So the fact that every minute, every second that we breathe, we can be doing something. So it's the present.
Because we were talking about activism, and I think if we're talking about activism, it would be a disservice to not bring up Black Lives Matter and all that they're doing. And I just want to, I talk to a lot of people about Black Lives Matter, and I think it's sad that a lot of people say, anytime we want to talk about Black Lives Matter, the first thing that somebody would want to say is, you know what, well, when are your own lives going to matter and stuff like that, and they just start bashing. And it's you really don't understand what Black Lives Matter is, and that's really addressing the lack of justice, because everybody go and say, well, everybody gets killed by the police, and I'm like, okay, everybody gets killed by the police, but when was the last time you saw a person commit a murder and not go to jail? What are you talking about? Especially a black person, because I'm gonna be honest, the last black person I knew that committed a murder and got off was O.J. Simpson. I don't know about nobody else.
Well,
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
I mean, the glove didn't fit, so.
Yeah, so you must have quit. Yeah.
Honestly, going off of the Black Lives Matter, I believe that, because a lot of people say, doesn't all life matter? It's we're not saying that all lives don't matter.
Right.
What we're saying is, it's coming to a time now, especially in our generation, that we're becoming more vocal about it's not okay that a person could shoot a black person and get off with it. It's not okay. And there needs to be some type of justice to be done. So we're saying that with Black Lives Matter, I think what the message is really that our lives matter too. And our lives should be taken serious too. African American life should be taken serious too. And it's the same, we said, everybody's equal. Nobody is better than the next person.
And let's be real, all lives don't matter to all people.
Well, and wow. there are people who have a lack of empathy, because they don't understand that they will never have the same understanding as you will, or you will. I won't have the full understanding of that. But understanding that injustices have occurred, and by the majority, because rules are made most often by the majority. And so in our history, remember the documentary. Don't be ashamed because you're the white student at the end of the line after asking those questions. You know, every kid was asked, okay, I can go into a store and no one will bother me, and you were supposed to step forward if, right? Or my parents can buy a house anywhere. And the white student who ended up in the front of the line turned around and said, I'm ashamed. And the black student at the back of the line, what did he say? Don't be ashamed that you got the benefits. Your job is to make sure all Americans get the benefits. That's what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about, I think.
I think it's fear that kind of drives people to be so distant and not really very acceptant. And when we fear something, it's hard to really go and try to understand it no matter what it is. If you fear riding a roller coaster, you go to it. Sometimes all your friends are going, you're like, should I really ride this? Should I really ride this? Then you really feel that experience and it kind of changes everything. So really what this is about is experiences and really facing your fears and trying to find a better understanding with that.
I feel like with all the activism and like with the Black Lives Matters and everything like that, like older people and the older generations tend to tell us that we don't know what we're talking about, or like we don't take the initiative to do something about things that we think are issues. But I feel like seeing the young people that's here today and the young people that's also in the Black Lives Matters movements and all those types of things, like that should be like our platform to like show like the older generations that we do care about something. So for them to like tear us down, or like the police try to stop us from what we're doing, or when they go to like the different campaigns and they're like bashed and told that they're doing what their peaceful protests are going wrong, like I just feel like that's the only thing that turns us wrong with the activism, because it's like when it's another group doing it, it's like they get praised about it, but as soon as it's something that we actually care about, it's feel like we're coming too hard, and now it's like violent. And then every time we try to do something as young people, I feel like we're often like deteriorated, and then they turn around and be like, well, you don't do anything for yourself.
Don't stop. Don't stop.
I feel it's a really good cause, because it's like our not generations before us, but like just in time history, people have been so separate, and it's bringing a lot of people together, and it's like a feeling of not just black pride, but human pride.
There you go.
I feel like we should have that.
We should do more together, and like with the black community and stuff, we should like to ease the pain with the cops and the fear of getting shot, and even though you're not armed and and all that, we should like have a rap-off battle or something, like, or a dance-off, something, ease the pain with the cops, so that, that the level that things are in now is really high, and so that if we can just raise the tension low and stuff, things will go better.
So understand.
And the relationships will be better.
Relationships increase.
What you felt about how older generations feel about young activists. So what else have you guys noticed about how older generations feel about current activism?
Current activism, I feel like the older generation looks down on us, like we're not ready, like they're not ready to change. So like their biased opinions might be pushed onto other people, and that's why they're afraid like to speak their opinions about race issues. So like maybe if their grandparents didn't believe in a certain thing and it keeps on going, now they don't believe in it. But I feel like everybody needs to speak up and not be afraid to talk about it.
I think the older generations are being very hypocritical, especially when they talk about like the violence that they see during these protests, because it's like, well, I mean, I learned about the Revolutionary War, and that was not a peaceful revolution, so
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I just think like the older generations think that our world is like going back into what they went through again, and like with like civil rights movement and everything, and you have like the Ferguson Act, for example, and I think they just trying to like speak up to like us youngins and saying that like we should make a difference and make a change, and not go back into the dark.
What are some of the other things that are happening that you think are going back on voting rights that were won through blood, sweat, tears, and revolution in the 60s? What's happened recently?
I personally think with my school's issue with our urban-suburban program, I think that took a step back just based on the rights that African Americans have in our country today, that by not giving them the right to come to a, I don't want to say a better educated school, but a place where they can get equal learning, I think that's just wrong.
Talked a little bit about a vocal minority must never be able to label a whole community, didn't we, earlier? And that's what your school district sort of suffered as you moved into that program.
Older generation doesn't understand our type of activism sometimes. Like if we tweet something and it gets 20,000 retweets about Black Lives Matter, I feel like the older generation doesn't realize the impact of social media on our current generation's activism.
I can tell you that you're right, being one of the older generation.
Did you want to say something? You had your hand up for the longest.
Thank you. I think that the older generation, sometimes I think they almost don't know what they want. Like, in my family particularly, I'm half Jamaican, so Caribbean, and we have CaraFest here in Rochester, which is this big kind of like festival, just sharing like all the Caribbean cultures. And in some instances, I'll see like my grandma that like helped start this foundation of this big community outreach, and some days she'll be 100% behind me, like, I'm so proud of you, keep this going, like, we're leaving this into you and your brother's hands and our family's hands. And other days I see her, well, you know, you and your brothers do this, or young kids these days, always on the streets, blah, 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 blah. So, like, I think that leaving it up for them to tell us how we should act, or kind of get their judgment, is not something that should be as important to us, because they left our foundation, but we're living here now, and we're like the present and the future now. So it's up to us. It's, yes, we'll pick up of some of their legacies, but we need to create our own also.
Yeah.
I would say, like, I'm kind of like take like the opposite viewpoint, because I come from a family that from many generations, and we talk about racism, like they're totally behind young people moving towards, you know, speaking up about racism. So, you know, I really don't want to say like everybody in the older generation is saying, you know what, you guys are doing too much or anything like that. Because I come from a family where, you know, racism, we talk about it once a day. You know, my dad talks with me and my, you know, siblings, or my grandma or my mom. We talk about it once a day in my house about what's going on with the news and things in that nature. So, you know, we can't say like everybody in the older generation does not care about what we're doing, because that's not true. Because you, like, for example, for you care about what we're doing. You're from the older generation, you know. And so,
what's so funny?
But you know what I'm saying? Like, you care, and like our principal, you know, majority of our principals care about what we're doing, and our superintendents from our school districts care. So, you know, let's not label like everybody in the older generation, because there are a lot of older people who care about what we're doing, who want to support us, who want to see us go further than what they did. So, you know, let's just, you know, we just got to find the right adults, basically. Find the right adults, and we can move forward.
And there's a silent majority that wants you to be successful.
I think the older generation is more cautious in their approach, and they like warn. I know in my family, I'm warned against racism. I'm told about it, and like when my mom sees it, she tells me, and things like that. But I don't think they're as active as us. So like you said, not to say that they don't have a part, and they don't really.
Are they trying to protect you, or are they trying to educate you, or both?
It's both, basically. Like they're educating you on what's happening, and then they're telling you to be aware as well.
Which Tom, you and I talked about a book that, you know, Between the World and Me by Coates. You should take a look at that book.
Did you ask about voting a second ago?
Well, that's where I was going, and
Okay.
because voting rights have been in some way compromised?
Yeah.
In some ways, or not?
I
never
really looked into the voting rights. Well, yeah, and I think you're gonna be talking about something else than what I'm about to say, but I know
that's
one
not
thing,
unusual
because
for you and me, Tom.
a lot of people say the whole thing of, you know, last turnout during the secondary elections, and it wasn't a huge turnout, and you know, then you get the whole sorry, I always compare things that people say. So, but then you always get the whole, well, you wanna change, but nobody's coming out here to vote. But you don't want to talk about how they closing down DMVs in the inner city area to where they can't register to vote or something like that. And while we're on the topic, I'm sorry for this real quick.
You're not sorry at all.
You're
not sorry.
I got a problem with this too, because anytime they talk about black rights, because I heard this a lot, and I heard it from my own aunt a lot growing up. It was like, well, if black people really wanted to, change the laws, they need to become the politicians and stuff like that. And I don't like that. I don't like that for this reason, because when we got when they were fighting for gay marriage rights, nobody was telling gay people, like, you need to, become politicians if you want to get, like, no. Yeah. So why are you telling black people that?
No, you make
Makes
a good
no
point.
sense.
You make a good point. And what I was referring to was the latest couple of years movement in certain places, certain states, to make voting more difficult. That's what I was referring to, and we have to fight our way through that kind of thing.
But I'm speaking for like many of my friends that I know. There's a lot of people who are unheard. I feel like people of different races, yes, black people, I'm with it, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are unheard and are like not really like given fair rights like that too, like Hispanic people.
Yeah.
I say like Arab people. Did I pronounce that right?
I have to say, to kind of go along with that, I think that the racism thing now, just not just in our communities, but in America in general, I think it's watered down. It's kind of like, everything's diverse now. It's not racist, but it really is. It really is. There's a lot of people that I know who are low key really racist.
So when Obama was elected, and people said we are now in the post-racism time period.
They were idiots.
It really wasn't accurate, was it?
They were idiots.
Yeah, because racism still exists.
Racism still exists. They said it was worked on. It's been, but not. It's not been taken away. Now, what I say is the problem here is people don't care for other people in general. There's a lot of other issues, there's the sexist issues against women. Women don't have the same amount of rights as men. Black people don't have the same amount of rights as white people, and so on. There's a lot of things that are really kept down, and outside of us, there's not a lot of people who really want to work on that either.
That gets you down. Multiply, get more and more kids involved in what you're doing.
Also, another thing is there's a new kind of racism. I feel like that's classism. I feel like a lot of people are getting pressed down because of where they are, like socially, how much money they have,
economics.
I know there's a lot of population with the black people, but there's still people like white people who are still getting judged upon because they're living with black people or living in a black community, and they're looked and frowned upon. It's like we're all people. Like, it's one love.
How do we get people there? How do we get people to understand?
So to bounce off what Thomas was saying, I definitely see that a lot. You see minorities, like not just people of color, but women and all that stuff, and they want to have a change in the system and like their rights, but they're not given the resources or they don't have the accessibility to do that. And then they're kind of shamed by society, like, well, why aren't you doing anything? So it's really condescending to me. And then to bounce off what he said about classism and racism, I feel like they go hand in hand, because a lot of times, not all poor people are people of color, but the majority of people of color are poor in this country. And even if you are considered like lower class, your net income, like the net yearly income, if you're a black person or a person of color, is still lower than someone who would be considered lower class as a white person. So it's definitely intersectional.
Well, and there's that statistic about the amount of kids who are in poverty in America. Do you know what the number is? The percentage?
It's high.
No, it's almost 50. It's closer to 50%. In America, number of kids, school-age kids who are in poverty, it's unbelievable.
What I would like to say is simply that we're all of different races, we're all of different colors, religions, and the system is basically set up for us to fail, no matter what we are pursuing as in a dream, whether you want to be an athlete, a lawyer, a doctor. It just comes down to wanting it more than the next person. If you want change, you have to go get it, and that's really what I got out of the Gateway to Change. If you really want to see people come together rather than people distant. You have to want it. And I've always found myself sometimes quitting, and usually quitting is what ends the dream, I guess. And that's what leads you to mistakes, that's what leads you to tripping up, and that's what leads you to forgetting. And sometimes forgetting what got you here is kind of what brings us back to where we were.
And that's what the true bigots want you to do. They want you to stop. They want you to give up.
He was saying about racism and how people like who are really like underground are really racist. I feel as if it is strongly like racism. Racism is like a lot in Brockport High School because like people they say certain things that they think they can just get away with it. Like also what we are told by teachers are you have to start at the class level. If you cannot reach out to the student yourself, you have to go to the authority in the school. So each level, but then some teachers aren't taught to deal with racism between students. So they just brush it off like it's nothing, and that should not happen at all.
Yeah, maybe we should finish it up with, how do you see your activism and everyone's activism going forward in the future?
I feel like with everyone just speaking out about the issues, it's going to just keep on going forward and forward about it.
I feel like a lot of things will change in the future. For example, our Arabs will feel better in the United States, and all Muslims and all black and whites will have their rights, and for everything they're dreaming, they will come true, and they should keep going on, and the thing we're talking about.
I feel like with our activism, our class, that it's going to get bigger and bigger so that we get it in every school district in Greece and hopefully expand outside of Greece also so that we have a larger network and not just, hopefully not New York, but try to get it outside of borders.
Well, Gateway to Change wants to make this a national movement. Let's help them.
I also feel like that we all know we're different, but there's no excuse for showing that we are like equal and like we're not the same. Like let's be honest, it's like it's diverse. We're diverse, but there's no excuse for creating like equal rights and stuff like that. So
this is kind of like an overview, but I know you've said a lot. Just don't give up, and I think if we don't give up, then eventually if we push for what we want, we'll see a big change in what we want to see in the world.
Like the platform that our generation has is social media, and we should use that in a positive light instead of all the negativity that's on there. And I feel like that will spread very quickly.
I think we should keep pushing, but I'm sorry, I want to say something to you real quick because I just want to make it clear because it's not all about, it doesn't come down to just who wants it more because it's not like when you get an application, somebody has a black name and somebody has a white name, and the person with the white name gets the call back first. It's not that person with the white name wanted it more. It's because it was a racism issue. And when you're talking about classism, it's like it's classism because they made sure the black people were poor first, and then you can have classism. It's not just like, we can be we can be colorblind, but let's be real. If you're colorblind, you need to go to the doctor because everybody sees color, and it's not about
colorblind is not the answer. Colorblind is not. That's not the answer.
No. So now, how I see this moving forward is, just outside of this, a big thing. I don't know. We really need to get people in the community to really open their eyes. This has really been pressed down for a long time. I'm ready to get out. Get out there. There's people out there who need it, and there's people out here who don't want it, but they need it.
You're going to find out, seniors, that your challenge continues, and you've got to make sure that you tap back into the people you trust right now to help if you need it, to support you if you need it. But the challenge will continue. It's not gonna. We've been going for what, 400 or 500 years now, working on this.
Since the day the Earth was like made, since the day the first one was made.
So it's a challenge, no doubt about it. And you guys are way ahead of the game, and you can't stop. Don't stop. Call us, us older generation, to help because we believe in you. All right, we believe in you.
Thank you all so much for coming and giving us your input, and continue to reach out to the community and everyone watching too as well. And thank you for watching. Thank you for watching Talkback for Teens. That's Talkback for Teens with a 4. Check out our Instagram and our Twitter and our Facebook page and our website. To all Talkback for Teens, thank you for watching, and be sure to check out our next episode.
Thanks, everybody.
days come around, get better and better days come around. Better days come around, get better.
Now you know what my secretary
Get better and better days come around, get better and better days come around, round. Better days come around, get better. Sun, 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 will come up now. Sun, sun,
Now you know what my secretary is.
That looks like it says Slytherin.
Get better and better days come around, round. Better days come around, get better. Get better and better days come around, get better and better days come around, round. Better days come around, get better. Get better. I'm only sign is a bit off your line. Last time I fixed this mix of mine. No crime to misty stirring, sister I. Rapscallions clip the mixable hour by hour. Drink correction fluid. Kitchen semi-finalist. Finalize. Sun, sun, sun will come up now. Sun, sun, sun. Sun, sun, sun will come up now. Sun, sun, sun. Better days come around, get better and better days come around, round. Better days come around, get better. Get better and better days come around, get better and better days come around, round. Better days come around, get better. Get better and better days come around, get better and better days come around, round. Better days come around, get better. Get better and better days come around, get better and better days come around, round. Better days come around, get better. Get better and better days come around, get better and better days come around, round. Better days come around, get better.